do this one. There we go. Hello and welcome. Kasia Berg here with a special guest, Linn Purdon, and we have had you, Linn, in the past on another episode. But I wanted to bring you back because I was fascinated. You left me with a bit of a cliffhanger around money, and since this is a series talking to different facilitators, spiritual people about money and how they see it, I wanted to bring you back. But before we start, perhaps you can fill in my listeners who perhaps haven't heard the other episode, just who you are and what you do.
Okay, sure. I think the quickest and easiest way to do that is just to say that I was born seeing energy. So I see everything. I do see everything as I'm assuming other people see it, but I also see the energetic structures within or without and around us. And I think that's what's different. Of course, it's hard for me to know because I can't get into somebody else's experience of life. And that became a burden for me as a young person because my family thought it made me evil. My mother, I'm sorry, it was my mother who told me that I was evil. I can't blame my whole family for that one. And then I just hid it all and twisted away from it because I felt it made me bad and wrong. And it wasn't until way into my adulthood when I was really on my sick bed, really, like I had to make a choice whether to continue with a body or not, that I decided to claim it back. And little bit by little bit by little bit, I now am able to talk about it, help people with their own energy, tell them what I see, and I've discovered every day something new. And the great delight is that I discover that I can be really helpful for other people with this ability that I was told made me really evil and bad.
What a start. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. And especially experiencing it from your mum, I would imagine that would be hard to go through. But then what exactly because you said you see energy in the structures, and we're talking about money, but what is it exactly? Like when you see a human being, you can see their energy. Is it like, are we talking auras? Are we talking deeper than that? If you can give us a little bit of a picture before we delve deep with this.
Sure, and with a disclaimer that I don't have enough words in the English language to be able to really describe this. I'm always trying to give metaphors. So probably the best place to start is that it looks to me like spheres within spheres within spheres that are all spinning in different combinations and different angles and different waves and pulses. So yes, I can see somebody's energy, but our energy is not separate to all the energies that are going on around us. Do you know, like it's like an ocean of spheres within spheres within spheres within spheres. So yes, I can talk to someone and I can say, okay, doing A, B, and C right now allows your energy, this lovely flow, and it's lighting up all of your energy portals and you're looking strong with that. Or I can say, you know, doing X, Y, and Z right now, everything's twisting and shutting down and contracting, and it doesn't look like much energy is moving through your energetic system. Now, when I say an energetic system, yes, it's the power board, if you'd like to say, of a human body, but it's much more than that because we're not just a body, we're an entire universe. So yes, it's going to have an effect on this physical apparatus, but when I'm looking at it in conjunction with the universal you. And that's true for a tree, for water, for an animal, for a blade of grass, a cloud. It's all vibration in nature.
So fascinating. So when you see humans, like you're talking to me now, can you still though see the human, like the physical forms, or this might be me being completely naive to and not being able to find the right words as well, but do you see those spheres sort of like, do they interfere with you being able to see that, you know, I've got brown eyes or blonde hair, or do you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like the physical
No, I
attributes.
can see the physical attributes, but I don't see them separate from the energy. And I have learned or taught myself how to sort of tune one aspect up and tune the other down if I need to. So for a long time, I found being out in the world pretty hard because there was just energy everywhere. And one of the things that I found the most difficult to deal with was when someone was telling me something that I knew didn't match the energy. And as a young child, that just confused me. I know this sounds really bizarre, but I didn't understand that people were not telling me the truth, or better still, that people weren't connected enough to know the truth. So I thought there was something wrong with me. It took me a long time to work out that either people were intentionally lying, or they just simply weren't connected enough to be able to know what the truth was. Yeah, so I can see both, and I have learnt to. I can't turn it off completely. But I can focus so that if I'm going to a human event, for instance, a get together of some kind, I have to do it very consciously, really dial everything down energetically, so I'm really focused on the human aspect of it. Doesn't completely separate it off, and there are times where I come away quite conflicted. Because I'm thinking, oh, so, I can see that, and I could see that, and I could see that. And of course, I don't believe it's my role to tell people at a family picnic or at a homeschool gathering, what I see. And so I need to just put that to the side. I'm sorry. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Somewhere
absolutely.
totally different.
No, absolutely. And the good thing, I guess, now, since you have over the so many years figured out how to understand the energy that you see, how it all makes sense now. The good thing is that now seeing this sort of disconnection in people, it doesn't make you feel like it's you, right? But you can see, so I guess you're able to separate what's yours from theirs, and you can see that. You're like a walking X-ray.
Yes. And when
So
people
people.
know that, it can be super challenging socializing, is what I find. My professional background is in mediation and corporate training, and I always lead with that, even though I don't really do much of that anymore when I'm out in the world. Because can you imagine, you're going out on a social event and someone starts telling you that you can...
I was going to say, like, especially family members or friends who know you, they were like to the friend, come on, just,
Either people want to tell me I'm crazy, and I got plenty of that as a young child, so there's that story, or they then clam up and get really nervous because they're afraid of what I can see, or they're pumping me for information. What does it look like, and what should I do, and I've got this problem, and
oh no.
so it's a really strange thing to navigate in a culture that doesn't quite, it's not a everyday thing, is it? Yeah.
And people wonder why a lot of us spiritual people become reclusive hermits, Oh my gosh, Lynn, I would so love to know more about this and talk more about this, but we're here to talk about money.
Yes.
So let's dive into that topic, and let's maybe kick it off by understanding what was your money story maybe before to now. What was your relationship with money compared to how it is now, in case it's different?
Right. Really fascinating, because I had to think about this a little. As a child, my family's story was that money's tight and lots of dramas around it. And yet we always lived in a really nice house and had nice cars and always had enough food. And I always felt we had enough clothing and that sort of thing. So there's a bit of a dichotomy there where I remember as a young person being a bit confused about the two stories that I was seeing. And the other, and I'm only making sense of this from retrospect, is that I can see now that money itself, like the actual paper notes or coins as they were in those days, they weren't digital, meant nothing to me. I couldn't relate to them at all. And now I understand it was because I knew that abundance or source was vibrational. It wasn't, the physical stuff had nothing to do with it. To the point that I remember as an older teenager getting a job in a restaurant, and they would often ring me. And again, back in those days, you were actually paid with paid packets. You went, I know it makes me very old, doesn't it? You actually went and picked it up, physical thing.
I missed it.
And they would ring me and say, there's four weeks of pay sitting here. Why haven't you come and got it? Because, in my mind, it was like, it's time for me to work. And I loved doing what I did. It was a great restaurant. It was beautiful people. It was great fun. And it's like it just didn't occur to me.
Pick up these physical things.
Because for me, it was just such an energetic experience. It was an energy experience, And that was a regular thing where they would be, or the manager would follow me out and say, "Take this, will you?" It was like, so I think not that I would have had the words for it at the time, but I think I've always been pretty connected to that, knowing that the actual figure in the bank account or the notes and the coins in your hand have nothing very much to do with the currency that we call money, or to me it's supply. I prefer that word, given that there are so many cultural stories and misadventures around the word money, in our culture.
Yeah, so you would have had another disconnect that you had to work through and understand.
Yes.
This is so fascinating. I don't think I've ever heard so.
I know, it's really
funny,
isn't it? Yeah, it wasn't until I look back at it and think, oh, I don't know, it's quite strange. Then I went into adulthood, and by that stage, I think I was pretty much infected by the human stories. And I remember then, particularly like being a single parent, that sort of thing. And then I got very worried about money and not having enough. And so I played out that story. I did that and did it really well, like really living on the razor's edge. And so I disconnected. And let's put this in context, because I was actively choosing to disconnect because I'd been told that what I did naturally was evil and wrong. And so I spent all of my childhood and way into my adulthood studying other people and how they did their energy and how they separated and didn't connect. And I actively took it on because I was trying, because the story that I had been sold was that's what I needed to be acceptable. Now, when I look back at it now, it's just absurd, but I can see how genuine my endeavors were at that time.
And it's human nature, right? To want to fit in, to want to belong. It's just for you, it was on an energetic level first, whereas others just change something about themselves or what they do or what they say, right?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah. So then money got really, really hard for a time there. Then I got really, really sick, as I said earlier, and then money got even harder. And then I remember I was in bed and life was just super tough. And I could feel this. And I could hear it. It was like a real sound where I just knew that was it. That was enough. Not doing it that way anymore. And from that point, just as when I chose to stay in a body rather than let it go and move fully into energy form, it was a very similar thing. It was just like, okay, that's enough of that. I'm going to now create a new relationship with money. And it was very conscious, very clear. And bit by bit, I came back to, and of course, the two things are intertwined. The more I claimed back the ability to see energy and be predominantly living in an energetic vibrational universe, and just using a bit of me in the human, then obviously it was, I mean, I don't think I could have not come to the conclusions that I have and come back to understanding more fully how this supply thing that we have put this label on and think about as a pie with a limited amount in it, is a cultural story and not a vibrational one. And so now I live very differently with.
Very different. Okay, we'll come back to this because I want to know how you live now. But this is so fascinating because I knew a conversation would be different, but I didn't expect this. This is like, even being as a child and a teenager, not attached to money because you didn't see the value in the physical representation, but rather the energy. Oh God, I have so many questions. Where do I start? So Linn, okay, so let's go back to you being this child, this teenager who doesn't have the need for this paper. But the energy, what was that like for you from that perspective? Not really understanding the energetics of it, like you didn't really understand at that time what is happening to you or what you're seeing that makes you evil, and yet other people, you know, your family labeled money as something. Obviously there was a money story. What was that like for you though? Did you see the energy? Was it filling you with abundance? Give us a little bit of like sort of a picture of what that would be like
as a child and as a teenager.
Yes.
Yeah. Primarily the word that comes to mind is confusion, because I was watching both without the years of experience I've had now to be able to interpret it, and very strongly with the belief system that it was my problem and I was wrong and I was faulty and I needed to fix it. So I spent a lot of those years just simply watching people, watching their behavior and watching the energy and seeing that in at least they didn't appear to me to add up. Now, the conclusion I came to was it wasn't meant to add up, you know, which was completely erroneous, you know, but that was what that I had to learn how to be okay with it not adding up. And because that's what meant fitting in, was that you ignored the energy thing. So I did that across the board with everything, specifically around money. I think bemused was a big part of it, because I very clearly saw all of the abundance and saw the flow. And
could you explain that to us, like the abundance? How did you, what was that? Was that a feeling? Was it a sensation? Did you see
on every level, really, because it was a sensation, it was a flow. I never once felt that I didn't have enough of anything. I always felt there was excess. I felt that so on an energetic basis, it just felt like everything was flowing. I think also too, because I spent so much time in the energy world, it is so abundant. It is so expansive. It is so, so if you're there, it's very hard to feel lack. So I had that. So I spent a lot of time alone so that I could, not that I would have understood that at the time, but it was so that I could be in that space. And I remember particularly from the ages of it would have been about 11 through to 18, we lived in this gorgeous house. And I had at the back of the house was my bedroom, and it just would be filled with sun. And, you know, I felt like a queen, or I just felt like I had, because the energy would pour in. There was this beautiful garden I'd looked out upon, the lights, the energy beings that were present there. And I just remember, and every time now I drive past that house, my whole heart just, I just go back to that abundant experience of being there. And then I'd come out of my bedroom and my parents would be in this terror space of not having enough and all the rest of it. And I just be incredibly confused.
Yeah.
Because even if, I mean, now I do understand there was, business. My father had a business, so I do understand that things on the surface can look different to what's happening in the background. But, we never went bankrupt. We always had a beautiful home to live in. There was just, often we were driving new cars. I mean, if the story ended in we went bankrupt, then it's like, okay, we were living a false version of it, maybe. But the fact is that never happened.
Well, and what I find interesting though is because I know, like with younger children, like you say, oh, they're not, they don't understand concept of money or problems and stuff. They live in their own little world. But you were sort of like, I mean, you were tween or teenager, and I know that probably when we were younger, we didn't have what our kids have now. We were bombarded by social media, and peer pressure wasn't at where it is now. But still, I would say teenagers have needs, desires to wear the latest, to have this, to have that. And yet you were feeling quite abundant, sitting in your room and experiencing this energy. And that's what fascinated me. And this is what I wanted you to explore here, because I think that is what so many money gurus, coaches talk about. It's not the physical thing, it's the abundance that you have to feel, but you actually really feel it, and you can see the contrast. And when you speak to us about it, I feel like we're getting a little bit of that now, where we're like, well, I certainly have, from listening to you right here, that I can see that disconnect between money, the physical thing, and the abundance that exists. So this begs to ask me, do you, when you look at money, do you see energy there as well? Is it the same for no matter what money you pick up? Is it different? Is there no energy?
It's really fascinating because it's not a static, well, in my experience, it's not static. So, when I so because money is really isn't, it's not these days, it's less of an actual item and more of it's more vibrational than ever, isn't it? Because it's getting a card, or we're transferring a string of numbers from one thing to another. And what I'm trying, it's so tricky to find words to describe this. It's a little like clay or Play-Doh or something like that. So the dough itself is consistent, but what each person does with it will define its shape, or the qualities of what it may look like, or the name you might give it, or even the color you might add to it. So it's a little like that. So when I am, now let's say, instead of just a note sitting on the desk, let me say that I've got the note and I'm going to translate it or transform it or exchange it for something else. Now, the note itself has a consistent sort of energetic quality, but now it's up to me what I do with that quality of energy. And so when I give it to, let's say, the person at the service station for the gas that I'm putting into my car, as I hand it over, if I'm doing it very contracted in my energy, and the story that would help that contraction might be something like, this is the last money I've got, and I'm not sure if it's going to get enough petrol for my car, and I'm not going to be able to, oh my goodness, and did you see how expensive the petrol is now? and oh my goodness, I'm not going to be able to get through the whole week with this amount of petrol in my car. What I've done then is taken the substance of this story thing called money and contracted it. And the minute I contract it, I create less of it. Of anything. We could call it money, but we could also call it joy or love or harmony or peace. When we pick it up and then we do that with it, we make less. There's less room for the energy to move through that. Where if I take the same piece of money, paper money, and I go to the service station, I just think, oh my goodness, isn't it just wonderful that all the people here know me, and they always are so happy, and they always treat me so well when I come here. And look at the convenience. It's only a few minutes from my home, and I always get a space that I can pull up with easily. And look at what my car does for me. Look at all the wonderful places I go to. I have never run out of petrol. Isn't that amazing? No matter how low it's got in my car, I've never run out. I've never been caught in the street. And I get to now put this money, I'm taking this energy, I'm giving it to this lovely lady who's smiling at me and always asks how I am, and we have a bit of a chat. And then I translate not just the money, but the petrol into supporting my grandson, and we go swimming, and I take him to the pool, and then we go to the park, and we go mountain bike riding, and it transforms into all of these things. Then what happens is as I hand that money over for that in that space, it actually creates more. Because we're not actually talking physical notes, we're talking energy. So what I then see is the vibration of that. It expands, and not only does it then expand me, because I've had this beautiful connection with the woman behind the counter, but her energy expands because of that connection. I watch it happen. And then there's just this ripple effect of expansion. And even if there's a person in that line that contracts, the fact is it's gone beyond human by that point. And so it's rippling out into the universe. This is wave going through that I can keep riding on. And so when we get on that river of flow and supply, then supply comes to you in so many amazing, extraordinary, wonderful ways, some of which might be in the form we call money.
Wow, that's amazing. Because it's interesting, because when you were explaining this, I felt so much expansion. Just like I can actually, I can't see energy, but I can feel it, and I can feel like, oh gosh, yes, I love that better. And you know what I love? I have this little rule: if at least two people who don't know each other tell me the same thing, it's the truth. And you said that about their money, that kind of charging it with happiness and positivity rather than fear or scarcity. And Mr. Ken Honda says that in Japan there is happy money, and when you send out money, you send it with happy thoughts, so that it prospers as well, not just for you but for others. And so ever since I read his book a few years ago, I always have this: whenever I receive money, no matter how big or small, even if I find 5 cents on the ground, I always say arigato money in, right? That, from his book, thank you for the money that comes in. And I send out gratitude when I spend it. But your concept is even better, because it's like we're charging, that water that they talk about, charge it with positivity. So you're saying we should be charging the money that we're spending with positivity, instead of focusing on the physical, the paper, being there, not being there, and sort of constructing it to that. That is fascinating. I love that. So that's how we see it. So if someone is currently having a bit of a lack story going on, not enjoying money so much, what would you say would be the best? Because here's the thing: we get attached as humans to linear time, like we're attached to it. So often I get even this question from my clients, like, how long do I have to do this for? Like, when is this going to happen? And I don't know. But what would you say to someone who is currently struggling, having a negative money story, to get better or enjoying money or loving money, get to the other side? What can you do?
The very first thing I'd suggest is that you remove the word money from your vocabulary. And why I do that is that the word money itself is just a made-up word. You know? But over the years, there are so many cultural stories. There is so much. When I look at the stories around money, it's probably be more accurate to replace it with power. Do you know? So we're not, even when we use the word money, I don't believe we're really talking about money anymore. We're talking about power dynamic. And the fact is, the power dynamic is based on a human culture. Disclaimer here, this is how I see it, watching me energy, that the power dynamic in our culture, and if we look at all of our systems in our culture, a lot of them are hierarchical.
I struggle
Based
with
on
that
hierarchy.
I know what you mean.
And at, where there's going to be power over rather than power together. And just by its very nature, by the default of that, it's not based on true vibrational principles. You know, that we are all enormously powerful and we are all universes, spheres within spheres. We're all universes interacting with other universes. I mean, this is how I see it vibrationally. So anything that is any system that's based on this power over is faulty vibrational construction. And any faulty construction, as we know, will collapse. You know, or it gets holes and dents and bits fall off, and then we have to keep plastering them back on and trying to get them to stick. And it's never long lasting. And if you look at any of the systems that we try to fix in a more political or generalized way in our culture, ultimately we get to a point where we think, well, the intention was great, but it didn't really work out. And to my eyes, that's why, because you're trying to fix the crumbling building from the top down rather than from the bottom up. And the bottom being the faulty premise that it's built on this vibration. So every time we use the word money, generally speaking, consciously or unconsciously, we get hooked up in the pie theory of abundance, which has inherently got the power dynamic in it. Because if I take that piece out, you don't get one. Do you know? And it's just, that is just not
it's very ego-driven, ego-based, and very limiting, right?
Totally.
Constricting us.
You know, and I'm sure there's probably people in the world that are so clean in their energy they can use the word money and none of that gets activated. But for most of us, I would really suggest, number one, is just, and I often say, I had this imaginary car park, and I said, just park the word money for a while. You don't have to get rid of it forever. Just park it in the car park. And then play around with it. Try changing it with love, because it's when I do that energy thing that I was talking about, where I increase the energy of the money, it is in the same spectrum of energy as love and joy and wonder and awe. Okay, which, you know, the little kiddies do this brilliantly. They know, they live in that space, and boy, do they get upset if they go out of that space, you know, because they know they're meant to be in that space. And if you've seen any young child be out of that space, they tell everybody, not just the person in the house, but the people next door as well. When they get upset about it, and so and it makes a lot of sense to me, because they know that's not who I am. I am all of this. So try changing it. You can change it with any of those words, would be really accurate. Supply, anything, give it a go. That would be the very first thing I would suggest you do. And when you notice the discomfort or the, you know, finding it difficult to replace that, breathe into that. and just maybe be a bit curious about, well, why is it so hard for me to sit with that? And generally speaking, it's because I've been told that I have to work really hard. I have to sacrifice. I have to fill in the blank. There's so many stories around this thing called money. If I call it love, then, you're saying I have to work hard for love. Do I have to work hard for joy? Do I have to work hard for wonder and awe? Do I have to sacrifice to get those things? Start
I
questioning.
love it.
But a little
Love,
does bring.
but love immediately feels warmer, more
Yeah.
expanding, and not. You're right, though. Money, the word money does carry with it a lot of negative aspects, let's say, negative associations, and very ego driven, very ego based. Whereas love, to me at least, feels very pure, unconditional, like real life. I don't mean like the fake love or
No.
love how we experience sometimes from humans who don't genuinely give it, but love, it does carry that sort of higher frequency to connect to. Okay, so park money away for now, and use a word like love if you find the discomfort or the challenges at first, because your ego is going to try to trap you back into a familiar pattern. But when you feel that, breathe into it. And would you say doing what you do with money whenever you're spending it, to charge it with all this positivity, is another good step?
Oh, it's always wonderful, and it's wonderful to do that, whether it's with money or anything else.
Yeah, because we don't think about it, right?
Yeah, because remember that the concept of money is human. It's human generated. So for me, that, like I said, the energy of that money is no different to the energy of the joy or the love or the awe or the wonder. So I don't separate them. So if you're having a really tough time with money, what I would suggest you do is park the whole thing in the car park and start concentrating on awe and wonder and love and joy for a while. Do what you need to do in the human realm to deal with whatever you need to deal with, but do it as quickly as you can, and then just focus on those other things, because we all can find them in our life. I mean, just a sunrise. I mean, how extraordinary is a sunrise, a sunset? How extraordinary is the sound of birdsong? How extraordinary are animals? Go to a dog park, go to a cat cafe if you have to, if you don't have them around you. Just concentrate on that, because for some people, if you've really got yourself into what the culture would call a real bind around money, focusing on the money, trying to get yourself out of the money, what happens is so tight around that the minute you put focus on it, it just And so what we can do, if we recognize that money really isn't money, it's a vibration, if we can start to change the proportion that of our vibration that we're spending in that more expanded space, then there's natural momentum with that. And I think maybe this is another big one for people to get, is that the way that I see this happen is that when we're born, when we take on a new body, we only put a tiny part of our enormity of the universal energy in. It's a bit like jump starting a car, it looks to me like, and we could talk about actually when exactly that happens, but let's just assume for the moment it's at birth, that gets ignited with energy, and so that we can create this suit that we wear, we can make it activated, and we can use it. And what it is really is a vibrational translator. So a body is a vibrational translator. And
body is a vibrational translator. I love that.
Yes, that's what we're doing, because we think we use our eyes to see, but really what we're doing, our eyes are translating the vibration and then sending a message to us of a translated message of what they see. or we are making sense of the vibration as the translation. It's why 3, 4, 5 people can all be in the same place and see different things, because we're all have unique translators. We'll all hear things differently. We all smell things differently. We're all experiencing things uniquely through our own unique translator. And so what it appears to me is that our energy is incredibly unique. I haven't seen two energies the same. Sometimes there's similarities, but we always have this incredibly unique energy structure that we infuse. The energy structure is the enormity, but we allow it to synchronize and activate with this translation suit. And so there is a really strong magnetic homing device in that combination. And so, yes, just like with me, we were talking about how I got the money thing and then I sort of forgot it. But then that moment came when it was like, and then came back, got it again. And we all have that. So I think it's super important to remember that wherever it is that we've got ourselves all contorted up in human stories, because we have this magnetic, almost like a big elastic, constantly tethering us and pulling us back, we never have to spend as long or work as hard getting out of that alignment as we do coming back in, because there is a natural momentum and magnetic pull. So what we need to do is loosen the holding tight. And as soon as we start to loosen, then momentum starts to kick in. And we can then leverage that magnetizing quality of that elastic that's pulling us in. And so this is a very long way to come back to, if you're really tight with money, we've parked the whole lot, because every time I even think about it, I want to throw up, or I'm ready to cry, or I start shaking. So, okay, for a while, just do the basics and then don't think about it. But if you keep concentrating on all the awe and the wonder and the joy and the delight in every other area, what does that do? It starts to loosen this. And as it starts to loosen that, there's the natural momentum, the natural magnetic pull to bring you back. And you're going to be becoming bigger and bigger. And then the money thing that you've parked is going to look smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, once we start to come back into that enormity of the truth of who we are, that's the vibrational truth of who we are, then so-called magic happens, because you're no longer trying to solve this money problem, or any problem for that matter, from this tight, constricted human story space. And remember, we did say that if we're in the human story, then we're in the human structure that's based on false premise when it comes to vibrational stories or vibrational truth. So if we're only using our humanness to try and solve it, you're only going to solve it temporarily before it happens
again. You'll be limited.
Yeah.
Your vision is limited, your knowledge.
So as you come into this, through the awe, the wonder, the joy, and the abundance, and all those things in other areas, then suddenly you have the universal view of the money situation you've parked. And then not only do you have the view, but you have the resources, universal resources. And that's when magic happens. Like, these are the sorts of things happen for me. You unexpectedly qualify for a grant. You have that happen 3 or 4 times. Someone will turn up and say, I don't need this. Do you need it? Could you use it? You haven't even asked, and there it is. Or the perfect person shows up. Oh, I know how to sort that out. Don't worry about that. I can help you. Oh, easy. Because for them it is easy.
Yes.
And suddenly that problem I have seen that happen.
In the most unexpected ways. Like, you could have never, like, your analytical mind could have never conceived it from the limited knowledge, information that it has.
Yeah.
Could never. Can I share with you something, Linn?
Sure.
So, I mean, not just with money, but even like, emotional over analyzing kind of, like my humanness. I'm much better than what I was a few years ago, but I feel like when I really have periods where I am doing that not just visualizing, but feeling really. So I read Akashic Records, and when I go up there, sometimes the love that I feel, I mean, it brings me to tears, and I actually don't want to come down because it's so, but I can see everything from above where it feels like all the problems that we're having here, no matter how big, how it feels so small, so insignificant. And then I come down, I open my eyes, and it's like I've been thrown into, oh, I'm here again, and this feels big. Which, when you were talking about how you sat in your room as a child, feeling abundant, feeling the glow, and then you stepped outside and you were met with, what your parents were dealing or talking about, or it's like it was that different world. And so I often feel that if I do my practices, I go through life where, yeah, things are still happening, or someone could upset me, as in like say something that would upset, but I am so high up here that it doesn't get to me. And the same as with money, where everything that you said resonated so much with me, because again, I could feel so abundant. So, and admittedly still, when we get something unexpected, doesn't happen very often now. It used to happen so much more before, but I keep reminding myself that actually throughout my history, if my brain needs proof, throughout the history, I never actually was without money. Money always appeared somehow, even like when I was a irresponsible young adult and I had credit cards and stuff, and I thought, oh, how am I going to pay this? Money just unexpectedly showed up. So I guess what I'm getting at is I'm kind of getting a fraction of what you were saying that resonated with me. But I also know that some people, when they're so in the trenches, feeling like, and it's not necessarily that they are really financially are cutthroat, but they feel like they are. They might open their diary, and say, well, Lynn, look, I've got no bookings for this week. Or I open my account, there's no money there, like, how can I not worry? Now, I can tell you from experience, listen to what Lynn said, because the way Lynn is seeing energy, I felt it as well. You just got to focus on as a lot of people in that moment would say, the woo-woo stuff, the fluff, and in the meantime, no money is coming in, and, I've got still empty diary, I still have zero in my account, but just trust Lynn on this, focus on feeling the love, seeing the love, feeling this abundance within you. And if you detach from the linear timeline of how long do I have to do it for, then when is it going to happen, I feel like a change in situation will happen in the most unexpected time, in the most unexpected way. Miracles will just show up. So for now, if you can't believe it, just trust Lynn on this and just do what she says. That's what I wanted to say with my story. Because I know it's easy for someone would say it's easy for you, Lynn, because you can see energy and you can see beyond the physical. I don't know if my little story is of any help, but because I obviously can't see like that, but I can, what you said resonated, because I kind of am doing it here and there, and because I am still, I would say, an apprentice here. So, there are weeks when I am perfect at this, and then I feel so great, and I will, I'm too busy, I don't, we drop again. But I can just say, even though it might feel easy for Lynn, if you can just trust and just do what Lynn suggested here, I feel like you will feel miracles and change coming very, very shortly in an unexpected way. Lynn, is there anything that you wished I'd asked you on this topic that I didn't, that you would like to share with us?
I did write something down. Okay, there's a couple of things that came up as you were just talking there.
Yeah.
One is that just because I can say the energy doesn't mean that I always do what I know and see would be the best thing to do. So I want to put because we do need to remember I spent most of my life way more trying to not do it than to do it. I was actually actively going against myself. And I'm human too, and there are days where I just just don't want to know about it.
People say
So let's make this really human here. Just I can see it doesn't mean, sometimes what it means is that when the inevitable happens, I can be even grumpier with myself because I saw it so clearly and but didn't do it. But hey, I've got no one else to blame but me. Yeah. So I really want to make that clear. The other one was just getting really super gentle with ourselves and recognizing that because the nature of the universe is one of expansion, it means it's always expanding. Therefore, it means we never finish anything. It's impossible. And yet we're taught, we've got to, because I was just thinking, we've got this money problem and how long is it going to take? And I've got to get through it. And, and I've been there, I get it. But the fact is, you'll get through that one. And guess what? It comes up and there'll be something else and there'll be something else. It's not so much getting through that individual thing. It's the strengthening the muscles so that each time there is an issue, now whether it be money, whether it be relationship, whether it be whatever, we get better and better and better at spending less time in the human story about it and more time in our universal self about it, so that we can move through these inevitable expansions easier and with more comfort and with more trust. And the trust bit comes here. One of the things that I have found so helpful for myself and for others is to keep some sort of evidence log or journal. So by that, I mean, I can sit here, I could go on all these amazing things that you'd never imagine would happen that have happened to me. Do you know, when things just constantly turn up. I have kept such a log of those that I now have them, and in here. So every time I get up against the, but what am I gonna do? I can go, okay, and there was this time, and this time, and that time, and that time, and remember this, and remember that, and remember something else. And it's a great way to build a trust muscle.
I love that.
Yes, and I really highly recommend it that you do that. And particularly if you've got problems in that one area. So let's say it's the money thing again. Start building an evidence journal for everything else. You can obviously, if something happens wonderfully around your money, add that. But there'll be lots of other examples. And if we remember that it's vibration, it's not actually separate compartments. When you start to receive that, there's so many people giving me compliments this week, or so-and-so gave me this amazing dress and it just fits me perfectly. That's the same vibration as money, exactly the same. And so you think you're not working on the money, but you are working, as you're noticing and reliving and writing the evidence of the supply in all its forms, the air, the water, the food, the sunlight, the bed that you see, it's all supply. It's all vibration. So we don't actually have to work on the money issue to solve the money issue. Is that making sense?
So much. Yes. So much. It is. We just happen to have attached more meaning, more value given to money.
Absolutely.
Money. Yes, I love that. And I love the evidence diary or journal that you call. I love it because so many times, and I know when I'm like, and my husband is really good. Like, but remember when it happened that time and you didn't expect it, and it just showed up, or this person showed up. I'm like, yeah, but that was just a coincidence. And he's like, but you don't believe in coincidences. But I'm in the mud now. I'm in the mud, so I'm gonna do burnouts and I'm gonna splash everyone out. So that would be so helpful because sometimes we need that physical evidence. We need to have it like written down so we can see bang, 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 one after the other. And that I feel like will ground it for us so much more. So I love that what you said here. And I love that you said, receiving and being grateful and happy and joyous about things that we feel like, it's not connected to money, but it really is, right? And we know this through our root chakra. If our root chakra is out of balance, we can't receive compliments. Often people who can't receive compliments or can't receive gifts, they can't receive money as well. It's all connected. Oh, this makes so much sense. I love this. I love this, Linn.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like our heads are spinning at this point. So if we want to connect with Linn and be in your presence, your energy, learn more from you, work with you perhaps, be x-rayed by you to see where the disconnect is. I know you have a beautiful free group, but where can we connect with you? And I will make sure that we...
Well, it's linnpurdon.com, it's the website, and you can contact me directly from there, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm Linn Purdon on Facebook, or Vibrational Living with Linn Purdon. And also there's a Facebook group, Soul Aligned on Purpose. So any of those places you can find me.
And that's a beautiful group. It's a fantastic group. I just, that's where I think I saw your free money workshop that you did there. I don't know what they call it, like a masterclass or whatever, but it was very valuable and informative. And it actually made me like go, oh, I must have you for this series. So of course, this was such a pleasure. I feel truly expanded, abundant. I have learned new things from you. Linn, I personally also feel like a few things that you mentioned resonated with me, felt familiar. So I thought, okay, that makes sense even more now. So I just want to thank you for this conversation. And thank you for taking the time to talk about money and making it less scary and actually something wonderful, something that can bring actually love and joy, because it is in the same frequency energy. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. I just love chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And just to bathe in your energy, I'm going to have to come up with another topic to invite you back.
I'll be in.
So beautiful. I just want to thank you again, and thank you to everyone listening. Please make sure to go and find Linn just so you can bathe in her beautiful energy. And if there is anything you need help with that Linn can help you with, you will be within reach then of her. Thank you. Have a great week. I'll speak to you next week.